Hello, Pastor Paul.
Mike, how you doing tonight?
Well, pretty good. I heard everything just went kaput.
You saw that. I guess maybe I,
Yeah,
I, I might I might have struck a couple wrong nerves here. I
good timing. I'm right there at 10:15.
Yeah, right when Mike's supposed to come on 10:15. So here we are. Well, anyway, we've restarted the broadcast. We've got 4,000 people now that have found the new broadcast, and others will make their way over as they figure it out. So welcome to the program, Mike. Great to have you.
All right. Well, it's good to be here, Pastor Paul.
Mike,
Good to be here.
Mike, well, I got to be careful, I guess, what we've been talking about, but let's just go here with the news article. Dmitry Medvedevich did say today that if Russia, and this was him going live, if Russia loses the war in Ukraine, that could probably trigger the use of nuclear weapons. Was he sent out to say that, or what does that mean?
That's a common sentiment of those who can actually push the button or initialize that type of offensive. So it's not just, that's not saber rattling. That's a declaration against NATO. And what that really means is that he's expressing the sentiment of those who are actually, willing to do that. And so unfortunately, we have a country and people in that country that are willing to go the extra mile. They do not see this war like everybody else. You have to put yourself in the mindset of individuals, right, who really believe that this is a final hour type of scenario. It's not just a war with Ukraine. Think about his attempt, or Russia's attempt, to regain the Ukraine, right? To get back that part that they lost, because it was a very sore loss to lose Ukraine. They were trying to make their home whole again, right? Now, if someone came and they stood in the way of a portion of your property that was very sentimental to you, you would not see that situation as minimal. You would see it as somewhat as an attack upon you having a right to have your property intact. And if it's sentimental and you express that sentimentality and they ignored it, that would provoke something inside of that person trying to make it a whole again. So he does not see this scenario like everybody else does, like they're advertising it. He sees it as one of the final hours, right? A biblical final hour, right? Not just some exercise he pulled to get it back. No, he sees this as a biblical final hour. And so they're quite serious about if they lose, right? They're losing to evil. He sees NATO as evil. He sees the West as evil, right? And when you have that type of mentality, when you see something as evil, you will go the extra mile to rid the world of evil. And this is what he sees. This is what a lot of people are drifting away from. But if all they have to do is change positions, and he sees the West as an antichrist. He sees NATO as an antichrist. Anybody who has a faith foundation, despite where they come from, they will not join forces with an antichrist. And he has an ability to liberate part of the world. This is in his mind. It's not just him. You're talking about probably tens of thousands of influential individuals right there in Russia who believe the same thing. So he will absolutely go forward with those plans. And as NATO continues to press on every single side, taking over operations in Ukraine, because this is how it's being interpreted. The Ukraine does not have that strength, that military strength necessary to maintain this war. So what's been happening is slowly but surely all the weapons have been replaced. Those are NATO-based weapons, right? All the offensive weapons and defensive weapons are literally, those are NATO weapons or Western weapons. And so his war right now, that was a declaration that his war is against the West.
Yeah.
They're not going to back down. They can't talk. You can't negotiate with the Antichrist, which is why he snubbed quite a few of our leaders over the years, because he has seen them as evil, right?
Yes.
In his ideology, he's following as best he can those things that are right. This is how he sees it. And this is where we are, and it most certainly will escalate.
Yeah, and you start to watch what he's been doing, and you're bringing Dmitry Midovich out to make this statement about this will bring about nuclear war, and then you bring out the Russian Orthodox leader, Kirill, and he says this will bring about the biblical end of the world. So these guys are setting the stage, Mike, for sometimes some kind of an attack somewhere is coming.
The unbelievable, we will most likely entertain, and sooner than later. It's not something that people can actually prepare for. They can be prepared mentally by accepting that, at any time now, he may take it to a brand new level at any time. Matt, that's the, in truth, to prepare for something like this is to mentally prepare, to resolve it in your minds that you're dealing with human beings who are capable of doing just about anything. And, us being in the last times, of course, it's up to the Father. If he does not allow anything to be launched, it simply won't. But we know there is a time where these things are brought about. And do we absolutely know if that time is right now? We don't. And it very well could be. We've even, all countries have had some type of warning of their morality, of what they're doing. All countries have had a chance to straighten things out. Most people have chosen, the immoral route and the self-praise route. And so it even seems like, not excluding Russia, that men right now have taken power unto themselves to wield the world how they would wield it. And in the meanwhile, you have this oppression of Christianity happening all over the world. And that's building, right? That's building up. And so in these times are very pressured. The situation it's almost unavoidable at this point. And again, not only is that mentality real concerning the leadership in Russia, but keep in mind, the more he deploys equipment, all these ships that are deployed in the ocean, some of the cruise missile site launch platforms that are put out there, there's going to be a mistake. There's going to be a communication breakdown. It doesn't matter what army anybody belongs to. There's always some sort of communication breakdown. And submarines, if you have a communication breakdown with a submarine, they have to go with the last order they had. And believe me, they have fail-safe orders in Russia. In other words, if you can't contact Moscow, you have a fail-safe order, which means they're going to assume something has taken place, and they will most certainly follow through with those orders. And nowadays, because it's not like some of the other events that took place in history, now it's an automated process. So basically, those sailors will stand around until the machine itself counts down and launches whatever it has to launch. Russia itself has a fail-safe. If anybody attacks Moscow to the point where the president does not hit that fail-safe button, right? There's going to be in about 2 hours, that thing's going to go off, right? Because that means
wow,
if he does not intercede, if he gets assassinated, if government is not properly passed down or something like that, there's going to be a nuclear launch from Moscow to many different nations, right? This is why the USA and NATO have to rush. They are rushing to get in position. This is one of the highest priorities any country has right now, and they know it. They know they're playing with fire. They know it's a grave situation. Germany has a fail-safe. Europe has fail-safes. UK has some fail-safes, but they are vulnerable, and Russia will exploit that. They already have people in position. They've joined up with Middle Eastern factions These factions are large. They are trained. They have been in and out of battle in Syria. Syria was like basic training for a lot of Iranian forces. They are over 1.5 million troops strong, right?
Wow.
That's them. Now that's their seeable troops. It is estimated through intel that they have a whole lot more than that. You're talking about Iran. Now this number seems outrageous, right? They have at least 100 million.
What?
In reserve,
Mike,
right?
Mike, no,
We're
no,
talking
no.
about soldiers.
No.
We're not talking about people. We're not talking about drafting everybody. Their population, what people are going to find out, many of these Middle Eastern places have intricate bases on the ground, right? Anybody who's been in the Gulf War during the 1990 Operation Desert Shield to Desert Storm, and EOD came in there. They had to blow things in place underneath the ground. They know about the hangars. Principal, they had hangars under the ground where they had brand new aircraft, brand new uniforms, weapons lining up on the walls. You're talking about a cavern that's larger than a stadium is, right? That's how wide it was, where you could have F-16s, a row of, or the span of about 5 F-16s. It can house just about everything. They have underground runways. This is all throughout the Middle East.
Yeah.
Throughout the Middle East.
Yeah.
And so they didn't get a chance to blow all of them because they couldn't breach. It's almost like a mountainous system that you have to go through to get there. Anyway, there's a lot of equipment there. There's a lot of equipment in Iran. They have hardened facilities in Iran. Doesn't matter how many bunker busters we drop on that place, you're not going to hit those hardened facilities. I would estimate they've already enriched uranium and have been doing so for the last 15 years.
Yes, I agree.
I would also estimate they have warheads and ICBMs. And what they have to get past is they already have a launch system. Here's the problem. Why have they used it? Because if they launch it from there, Russia's brand new system, right, is not really field tested. So they have been field testing that warning defense system, right, so that nothing can shoot down those ICBMs as they take off because they need escorts upon launch. So Russia has also been testing their equipment to make sure that's okay. They have air superiority in that place. That's why you don't have flyovers of Iran. That's why drones are captured, so on and so forth. So what they have been presenting by way of the media is very different than the reality on the ground. It's very different. And, we have this preparatory state that we're in right now where everybody is in a mad dash to get everything set up. Well, it's very real. It's extremely real.
As this intensifies, and as you said, it's a mad dash. UK is sending over their best tanks. Germany sending over their Leopard 2s, their best tanks. We've announced we're sending over our tanks and artillery and sophisticated equipment. And this is infuriating Putin, no doubt about that. But while everybody's in this mad scramble, and Iran is a lot more equipped than what any of us really realize, where's Turkey? Is Turkey laying low? Are they moving assets?
Turkey is never neutral. Turkey is never neutral, right? Turkey has almost I'd say a concierge mission. Turkey normally will facilitate different political talks between these enemy or communistic factions. They normally talk to them in the West at the same time, which makes them Turkey has to take this role because they have to be useful somehow.
Yes.
But Turkey, and if something ever happened, Turkey would not side with the USA. If something ever happened, I hate to say it, India would not side with the USA.
But they're supposed to be.
They wouldn't be able to.
But they're supposed to be in NATO. They're supposed to be in.
Sure they are, but they won't do it because again, this war is unlike any other. All the other wars, right? It was really about fighting tyranny or tyrants against democracy, right? That's not what this war is going to be about. That's not what this war is about now. This war has a basis in faith, either Christianity or Islamic faith. Now, whether that Christianity deals with the Roman Catholic Church or not, of course, some of that is true, but basically this is a war of faith. And because we have this war with a lot of Islamic factions, you don't hear about Islamic terrorism, do you?
No, it's kind of just like went away. It just died, or it just went somewhere.
Well, when they don't talk about it, that's when it's really a problem. When they talk about something, that's not where you look. Never talk where they often misdirect people like that to have them look in certain directions. In the meanwhile, we have a real problem with radical Islamic forces all throughout the world.
Yeah.
And what they will eventually do is they're going to continue to train. They've been training, rotating in and out of small wars and small conflicts and this, that, and the other. And some of these populations, like Russia and these other places, they're building up by way of their populace, or I should say army, the army populace, with these Islamic believing individuals, in which Jordan is responsible for primarily that faith education to all of them. So they're very tightly knit. The Middle East is changing. It's not how it used to be 5 years ago. It's very different. They have been empowered. The USA left. You don't hear anything about NATO weapons with these Islamic factions, do you? You don't hear anything like that.
No.
We used to have accountability. People used to talk about that, right? That began with Benghazi, but all of that died. Nobody wants to talk about that. It's not interesting. Everybody went to politics. Politics has largely been a distraction from the large-scale setup of war that's happening right now. And while everybody's attention has been pointing in one direction, something has been growing and building in the opposite direction. And that would be a kingdom, a very large kingdom, that really is up and coming. It came out of nowhere. It was tiny at first, but now it's not so tiny, right? Some of those, what sustains it, the money that sustains it, is rolling in. And in fact, they're self-sustaining. They're very self-sustaining. And now they're making deals at very high levels. So we have an army growing out of nowhere, and it's spreading. I would estimate that in another month, that army is going to be quite visible. In one more month, just one more month, things are going fast.
Is it being built by a coalition of nations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Is Israel the target? Is Israel going to be the target? Is Israel going to be the target?
Israel is always a target.
Yeah.
Nobody agrees with Israel being there, right?
No.
If people heard some of the rhetoric that is spoken between those who make real decisions, their stomachs would drop. Because in truth, nobody's looking after Israel. Israel is a political piece that is used often for the people because they know that Christianity constitutes a large amount of people. And so to appease them, they keep Israel around. But Israel is might as well say Israel has been handed over already. It's been, believe me, things are coming. And they will empower some of the more radical sects in Israel to cause that further demise. They're being set up to be infiltrated. People have gone in there. Their population is changing. They used to call back the Jews, right? You know about the problem they have right now where some, they have a lineage as Jews, but their loyalty is not to Israel.
Yeah.
Their loyalty is either purely Arabic or with something else. And so you have a large amount of people in there that are beginning to fight against Israel's God-given rights. They're fighting against it. They're siding with those on the outside. So they have turmoil from within, and it's growing.
Folks, we got Mike from around the world with us tonight. We're so glad over 7,000 of you figured out how to get back to this second broadcast. So we got one half of broadcast, and then it went haywire just before Mike was to come on. But we've got him back, and it's going well, and we thank God for that. This webinar is coming up next Friday. You put out some tremendous information. I'm not sharing what it is, but you talk about, of course, the World Economic Forum. You talk about the Middle East. You talk about the wars. You talk about the Russian situation, but then you also talk some about what the Earth is facing. And I won't go into the waves of energy and the dates, but what I would like to do is ask you about the meteor storm, the approaching apparently meteor storm. Can we talk about that tonight some?
Sure, because I guess we've been blessed for so long not to have things on fire from meteors, right?
Right.
Most of the inbound meteors, although they are increasing in number, are largely, passive. Nobody really thinks about that, but those days are ending. The skies will become quite unpredictable by way of what reaches the atmosphere, because we're entering into a very new part of space, period. Some places are dense, some places are just overtaken by rogue rocks and everything else is out there. Well, of course, as we continue to travel, and we're traveling pretty fast, this entire solar system is, we're coming into a place where there's no way we're going to dodge a lot of inbound meteors. And once we get into this dense part of existence, it's going to take many, many years before we exit. Now, what this will likely do, Pastor Paul, is we're going to start to see a buildup of perturbers, both perturbers and intruders that hit the ground. Not so much aerial explosions. To most of the rocks that explode in the atmosphere, they have a very predictable composition. But we're talking about not a bunch of rocks that clump together, but more like something that broke apart, right? We're not talking about something that coalesced in space and is full of gases and things like that. No. We're talking about rocks from something that absolutely blew up. Some remnants of something that was quite large. And as we go into it, we're going to have more atmospheric breaches. That means first they'll start by small pebble-type objects smacking into the ground, setting things on fire. Right? That will eventually increase as we get to the dense part of this phenomenon. In which case, we're gonna have a lot of places that are burning. We're gonna have fire problems.
What is this?
I think that's something people should get ready for.
Well, what is the composition of this? Because if it's not going to blow up in the air like most,
lots of iron.
Iron. So it's going to come all the way to
as a star killer.
So it's going to come all the way to the Earth's surface. I mean, because it won't just blow up. And that's going to create the fires on Earth and going to create the impacts.
Lots of it. Well, that molten iron hitting the Earth with some other exotic metals, right? You have that, and it's wrapped around with arsenic, right? So here's what happens. You have too many of these things that come into the atmosphere. Our atmosphere is going to be laden with arsenic.
Are you serious?
Right? Naturally, that comes in with almost every single object that explodes or breaches the atmosphere and glows brilliantly. It goes that way because of its composition. In this case, it's going to be a lot of arsenic. Now, one of my biggest issues, and the reason why I'm watching, in truth, if it were just a big ball of iron that would come in and hit the ocean, I'd be fine with that. I'm okay with that because we've had those before in time. People will survive. We'll have some adjustments. But imagine something that is iron-based, encapsulated with lots of arsenic wrapped around it, right? If it hits the ocean with that type of arsenic wrapped around it, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But where's all this stuff coming from? There's a set of charts coming out that some of the people out there on the internet they're going to love this because they're going to release some of the data, actual data, of the arcing effect that's been taking place from some other system we're getting close to, right? I'm going to say the way they're going to give it to everybody. Some other system we're getting close to also has 3 asteroid belts, right?
3.
And lots of debris in orbit around its star. Those objects contain tons of arsenic, tons of iron. Lots of iron, lots of arsenic.
Mike, now you're talking wormwood. I mean, when the Bible talks about we got these 2 what look like burning mountains and whatever, and it crashes into the sea and into the earth, and then all the water turns bitter. poisonous. I mean, is it arsenic?
Arsenic would do it. It would do it. If we had a large aerial burst somewhere in the Pacific, likely the Atlantic, and it was, that was of a good size, right? We'd be in trouble. And here's that part. Here's what a lot of people, maybe they didn't think about this, but imagine an object that's really big. Say it does not hit Earth, but the tail goes right through us, right?
Okay.
And the tail is just, gas is coming off of it. Suppose we go through that tail, but the tail is arsenic. Do you know what would happen to the oceans? It would poison the oceans.
Poison.
It would absolutely poison the oceans. And so this effect, this unavoidable effect is going to take place.
Yeah.
We will entertain the tail of a very big object. And we'll likely go right through that tail. The way its arc is aligned, we're going to go right through that tail.
And that's and that's your Revelation chapter 8. That's literally explains what you're saying is we now can see the tail of a big object that we're not going to get hit by this object, but we're going to go through its tail. And when we do, we're going to get pelted with iron, rocks, brimstone, and arsenic.
No, arsenic is going to be the worst.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. This identification, what you're saying is they can see this, right, Mike? I mean, they can see it. This is Wormwood. This is the Revelation chapter 8 event. It's coming. How far is it away? How far are we? How far are we away from that? Do we know?
We're not that far. We're not that far at all. But before that, Pastor Paul, we're going to have some encounters with a lot of objects that will cause fires.
Okay.
Right? Now, the great concern is this: when we get into this time, into the density of this time, all those satellites around the planet, we're gonna really have to deal with that because we've not dealt with that. It seems like every 2 weeks something is piercing the ISS.
Yeah.
There are already estimates coming out that the ISS, International Space Station, is not going to be there too long. It will eventually deorbit. That's going to cause some issues because of what's on board. There's satellites in space. They have canisters the size of an ammo can, the standard ammo can. But inside that canister are materials that, if they hit the atmosphere, they could destroy 1/4 of the Earth. They could poison people.
Whoa.
There are dangerous things in there. So these are dangers that, Air Force Command, Space Command are charged and tasked to really watch everything that comes in proximity to these things, because some of these satellites are deadly, but we need them up there. That's their, the fuel they work by. That's something people don't think about. These are threats, man-made threats, that if a disturbance hits in the outer atmosphere, we're going to have to deal with those threats. And so what I'm saying is this: we do not need anything to penetrate the atmosphere. All we need to cause absolute destruction on the surface of the Earth is a small disturbance in the orbit of a few satellites that will cause a chain reaction, just like a pool table. And all of a sudden, we're going to have poison air here on the planet, right? Space Command has to shoot everything down that contains some of these fuel centers before they even, come in. That's their job. Air Force Command, that's their job. NASA, that's their job. JPL Propulsion, European Space Station. They have to be on top of this. That's where a lot of the allotted money for the black budget has now been shifted. Because they're working overtime on this. Right? They're working. Elon, he knows all about it.
Yep.
Because he has a lot of defense contracts, and he has to be in the know about these subjects.
Yes.
But we're getting into that time, is what I'm saying, because we're going to have meteor storms, fastball. But what's going to happen to some of those satellites up there? Right? We have micrometeorites that are now penetrating the ISS. They're damaging satellites. They're coming very low in the atmosphere. They're skipping all over the planets. And this is every single night. And so we're really, that density, the frequency at which these things are hitting is getting quite high. It used to be, we were in a clean part of space at one point. We're not in a clean part of space right now. So things are changing, whether anybody, knows that or not. And as I said before, no one need be convinced of these things. We're going to have to live through it because we're already in the time where it's happening, and it will escalate. It will escalate.
Wow.
By the time some of the bigger events come around, it's going to be a lot of people fatigued, wore out, and just simply, out of steam concerning some of the bigger events. These are small events that will cause many devastations on the earth. Look at the rain in California, right?
Yeah.
You have these. You have the storm patterns that kept coming in, but these storms have really degraded, or let's say they have depressed a lot of people out there. They've been worn out by the rain, right? And this will be followed up by a dryness they have never experienced before. Remember when I said it's a shame they couldn't capture all the water that's been
because you know it's going to run off. It's too much too fast, so it's going to run off.
Yeah, and the temperatures that we're about to face, Pascal, we're going to break we're going to smash all records this year coming up concerning. I don't like heat, but it's coming anyway. We're going to get very hot, very dry, but there's still going to be flooding in a lot of places where there shouldn't be flooding.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy, but you were right. You told us that, and the Bible, folks, also tells you that in the book of Hosea. It talks about it will rain on one city and not two other cities. And the people in these two cities will have to travel over to the one city, and there still won't be enough water. Now, this was prophesied. This is what will happen in the last days. Now, Mike, you're also talking about, folks, and you really should read Revelation chapter 8. Read about these two major events that brings this wormwood effect, that brings this arsenic that poisons the water and makes it bitter. Okay, that's what it says. It's wormwood. It makes it poisonous, makes it bitter. So, Mike, you're saying now, and these little pebbles are piercing through the International Space Station. They're going to end up having to take that thing down. Our satellites are going to be threatened. What you're sharing with us tonight is we can see it coming now. We have the technology and the space probes and the big telescopes and what have you. We can see what's coming. The wormwood effect, we can now see it coming. And I take it's coming along with this binary system. Is it part of the system that's coming?
It's coming with it.
It's coming with it. Okay.
And that binary, it's going to take a lot of people they'll see things in the skies they've never seen before. We're going to see color changes in the sky. We could entertain a day where everything is orange color.
Wow.
We're going to see a redirection of the photons the sun puts out right now. It's going to be redirected to the it could happen to more than one source. So we'll just find that out. But we're going to see Jupiter change, Saturn change. We're going to see Mars change. The Earth, I know that the Earth is not going to keep its orbital position. It's not going to happen this time. We have been so blessed for so many passages. I do not believe the Earth is going to keep its orbit this time, which means we're going to have a change in constellations. Amateur astronomers are going to see this. They'll likely be, blown away, worried by these things, but just get prepared to see many different things in the skies that just shouldn't be. We're going to see exactly what happens when some of the stability of the heavens is lost.
Yeah. Well, Jesus said the heavens will be shaken. There'll be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars. In other words, we're going to see things we didn't see before because apparently the earth gets repositioned in its orbitable path. That changes the perception or your perspective of the stars. You start seeing weather and everything, right? And what's going to knock everything off its course is this binary system coming by, that's coming by too close, bringing a bunch of moons with it, bringing a big comet-like tail. Even, matter of fact, in the book, Immanuel Velikovsky, who wrote the book, folks, called Worlds in Collision, talks about this tail, this, nemesis, or, whatever you want to call this, Planet X, but he always talked about the fact that it wasn't that would hit us, but it would be the debris that comes with it. And we wind up going through that. And that's probably what you're saying, Mike. That's what's going to knock us off our orbit. It's going to knock us off our trajectory and our orbit around the sun, which is going to change everything. Temperatures, tides, rain, droughts, fire. I mean, really, it's going to change everything.
I'm going to give you another scenario too, Pascal, because a lot of people think that maybe some secondary system has to be in close proximity, but imagine this one. Imagine something starts to affect Jupiter.
Yeah.
Just Jupiter.
Just Jupiter.
Say Jupiter moves 2, 3, 4,000 miles outside of its orbit. Do you not know that will throw the inner planets in chaos? We are just as a moon, right, as a tidal lock with us, right? And it's in geosync orbit, so to speak, with us. Perfect, it just goes around perfectly to sustain life on the Earth. So if that were disrupted, the tides would just go inland so far, it'd be just crazy, right?
Yeah.
So imagine something disturbing Jupiter. If something had enough of a pull, of a force to affect Jupiter's orbit, then all the inner planets would follow suit, because Jupiter keeps our balance. It keeps us in the orbit we're in. And I hate to tell everybody, but we're in this perfect, there's no way things just fell into position. These planets have a perfect orbit. I mean, a perfect orbit. And the more you measure, the more you find out that that's something that it just does not happen naturally in nature. So we're in this perfect orbit with a perfect balancing ball called the moon. But if Jupiter is disturbed, everything is going out of whack. Everything will go out of whack. You're talking about we could sit sideways for a few hours and then go back, start going backwards. The Earth, Jupiter will be disturbed. There's no way Jupiter is going to survive being in close proximity to something that has a certain level of mass. It's just not going to sustain its present orbit that way. And when that changes, and by the way, I know everybody thinks Jupiter is a gas giant. I can't even discuss that one. But anyway, Jupiter
whoa. It's not a gas giant? Then what is it?
I'll just say I don't believe it's a gas giant. I do not believe Jupiter's a gas giant. I just don't believe that.
Because you believe.
A few of the pros believe it either.
Is it because it has to be the counterbalance to our sun, and a gas giant wouldn't really do that?
They measured its pull, Pastor Paul, and the pull of Jupiter does not match what they put in the textbooks. It does not match celestial mechanics as it is entered on many different computer systems. It just does not match. The real data is different than what's being calculated down here on the Earth. They have things so nice and neat here on the Earth, like mankind, they're just masters of knowing things they can't even actually get to. And then when they have probes repeatedly going past Jupiter, gravitational pull constants are off. They're all off. They don't work, right? So they have to end up doing these manual burns, and that sends certain craft, they burn up more than they thought they would burn up. 2 of the crafts are sent out compensating for extra burn because they understand that there's no way Jupiter can be a gas giant, but they're not going to change the textbooks. They don't want to ruin confidence is what it is.
Right.
But we're going to see Jupiter start to shift. We're going to see it shift. That will be preceded by about 3 red storms. That big eye on Jupiter, that storm?
Yeah.
We'll see 3. They'll talk about 3 storms, 3 specific storms, 3 eyes. It'll be in the news and everywhere. When you guys see this, you know that Jupiter's orbit's about to change. And they'll likely say, ooh, that's just awesome, right? It has 3 big major storms on there. That will be the beginning of the alterations. Now, some of the mathematics, some of the ideology behind that, the data behind that is sort of complex. But just watch for 3 major storms on Jupiter. If not, they'll probably be the same size as that big red spot that continues to change.
Do you see that happening in 2023, Mike?
I hope not, but it probably. We'll have an example, a small example of what I mean in 2023.
Okay.
We're going to have a small example. All I can say is, I would rather it didn't, but that's not up to me. I just know that when it does, its orbit's going to shift, and that gives a good indication of what is inbound travel. One of the aggravating, and I know some of the things I say totally against textbooks, right?
Right.
Totally against what everybody had, but here's the issue though. Man is naturally prideful behind academia, right? My other problem is not only that, but when you have good Christian researchers, they need the real data. They don't need this fictitious stuff, because if they start basing everything off of some theorized data, they're going to have a theorized answer. And so there are people pressing to get Christian folks the real data, the absolute real data, the real constants, so that what they calculate can be much more precise. Because I'll tell you, Pastor, we're in a time where everybody is needed. Every skill set is needed. It's just needed. It's time. It really is time. And we don't have much of that. I fear that now, 2 years ago, I said, if Christians don't stand up spiritually, the government's things are going to start crumbling.
Yeah.
Well, we
see it
about 8 years ago, but there we are. But guess what? If we don't come together and put our heads together on some of these anticipated things we're going to go through, it's going to leave too many people in the blind, right? Because we know that with a lack of faith, you got to be very convincing. To a lot of people, it requires a lot of data for a worldly person to actually start to even consider what you're saying. We will have examples, though. And if somebody can put out data that precedes these examples, then they'll hear them. They don't care how it's going to sound right now, but when these foreshadowings pop up, they're going to say, hey, who's that guy that said this was right? They were right on the money. Where is he at? Right. That's needed. That's needed. Right now in the body of Christ. It is needed.
You see, as things are coming to pass here, and this is so important. And guys, be sure you get your tickets now. We're 8 days away from the webinar called Concern. We talk about CERN, World Economic Forum, Agenda 2030, which is global sustainability, and then the New World Order. Mike, they know when can I ask you, when over in Davos right now, they show us part of what they talk about, but are they talking about what you're talking about tonight? Is there rooms in there where guys and scientists are getting together and they're saying, let us show you the projection of this thing and what's coming up on the earth? Is that type of discussion going on?
They have virtual. They're not only are they on a stage, but they're also in the meta world, right? So that means they're in that three-dimensional world, virtual world, and they present all sorts of data privately, without having to disclose that to anybody else.
Right.
So you have a lot of folks involved in Davos who are CEOs and presidents and things of that nature, who are in the metaverse. And what they're doing in the metaverse is going into these private places built in the metaverse so they can show presentations, even take people out in the middle of a simulation to explain to them what they're looking at, right?
Wow.
That's not the only thing. The military is also involved in the metaverse, right? Because they have briefings and things like that. And that's not the only thing. There are people who have jobs in the metaverse. They have to show up every single day. Just to give an example of this so people don't think it's strange, like, how does he know about Davos? Well, just like this, give it 2 days and watch crypto. Anyway, next subject. They have these presentations in the metaverse, and people have seats in them watching some very intricate things happen, right? They can absolutely control who watches what. As soon as you step into the metaverse, they know who you are, where you are, all this good stuff, right? Your telemetry is transmitted, so it's pretty secure. They know exactly where you are. A lot of things being shown because they're moving forward. A lot of people will begin to see the world start doing things by force. Everything is going to be by force. They're done asking. They're not going to ask anymore. They're going to do it by force. I can't emphasize that enough. They're going to do everything they have to do by force.
So this the urgency of these 7 years. There's 7 years before we get to the 2030 completion. They're turning up the heat. I mean, I take it that they're going to be turning up the procedures, the policy changes, the global mandates of different things, the food distribution, water distribution, defense mechanisms. I mean, do you see by force, meaning whether the populace like it or not, they're going to mandate and change things from an international perspective to the whole world.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
What will be their excuse? What excuse will they use to have to do what they're doing?
Well, that's going to be the climate, right?
Yeah.
It's also going to be the food. Climate affects food.
Yeah.
Right? So here's what normally happens. If you had an argument about the climate, and somebody said, well, we got to do something right now. To do something right now means you got to start making everybody cut back on what they consume.
Yeah.
If they stop consuming so much resources and that ability to revitalize or reintroduce the waste back into the environment, all that goes down, right? Here's the bad part. Everybody should know this. After multiple simulations, do you not know it would take over 1,000 years to get the carbon footprint back to work pre-industrial stage? If we stopped everything right now, more than 1,000 years, that doesn't work. And if they did, it could cool the planet somehow, Pascal. It would take 125 years to get the ice, right? To get the ice to not melt as much as it is now by about, I think it's like 10 or 15%. So it will still melt. If we stopped everything right now, the climate will still increase for the next 230 years. The sea levels would continue to rise for the next 300 years. If we just stopped everything right now, we're still on track for a very different world. Now, they know this. I'm saying this because they know a different world is coming. They know that all of America is not going to be inhabitable. They know that all of Europe is not going to be inhabitable. They know this. And what they have done was they ran the simulations. Why do you think the census was so important?
Yeah.
The census was important because they had to have an accurate count of where everybody was and what they were doing and all this good stuff. So that was important for the simulations. They have a master simulation they have run. They know who's going to be able to have housing and who will not. Now, how do you get rid of folks who are not going to have the housing in the new landscape that we're going to have, with parts of the earth covered by water and other parts of the earth missing through tectonic shifts and things like that? How do you do that? You have to have some sort of forced problem to start getting rid of people. And I hate to say this, but war is a grinder. In other words, every time a war comes around, right, we start to recycle people.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We recycle people. They don't like that conversation around wartime. People do profit, yes. But most importantly, you have a lot of people who are taken off the books. They're no longer on that census. Why do they do this? So that the rich keep in power. This is very difficult to say, and I know a lot of people may not get this. It's not about those in charge having money, because they made the money, right? They designed the money. They put the money out to everybody else. They own that money. So that's not the factor. The factor is control of the populace. Control means not having prisoners, right?
Yeah.
But to somehow psychologically dupe the populace into praising them, into looking to them. When the people start saying, hey, we need a new this guy, we need a new this guy.
They're doing it.
That's them praising the people. That means they're not willing to do it themselves. They don't believe in themselves to do it. Isn't that funny? You have billions of people on the earth. They don't like governmental figures, but they won't do anything about it. Because everybody has in their own mind, well, I don't make a difference. Well, you get everybody thinking that, and they will not do anything.
Right.
They won't do a thing. Somehow that will start changing, but not before these guys push a kingdom in front of everybody. So all of what people have been used to, look for it to fail. There's going to be a failure of democracy like nobody has ever seen before. There are going to be upsets. People think, well, if this country went to war and that country went to war, clearly this would be the winner. They're going to reverse it in front of everybody's faces. When everybody is defeated that way, they're easily molded, lifted back up into a new system. The young kids are not going to be bothered. They don't care. That's why all these new bills have passed and everything else. They're already in the metaverse. They don't care about morality like we do. So they're used to it. And the one thing we're going to have to realize is that even by the census, the older people who are above the age of 45 or I'll say 55, there's not too many of us left.
No.
There's just not too many of us left. We do not constitute the major part of the populace. We just don't. And so what they're doing is all these young people who are easily
persuaded
by these weird things, they're going to utilize them.
Yeah.
They're going to utilize. And speaking of these young kids, basketball, maybe your audience knows, I bet you they do. Why is it that these young children, I've never seen this before, I know why, and I won't say why, but these young children, they have no idea. I'll give you one scenario. It's a chuckle. When a light bulb goes out in the refrigerator, right? You or I would never say, well, let's throw out the refrigerator. It does not work.
No.
These younger kids, they have no clue that a light bulb out in the refrigerator, right, just means a light bulb is out. They think the whole thing broke down.
They don't understand how.
In other words, they're disconnected from common things.
Yeah, they don't know how.
It's impossible because we're talking about genetic memory. The genetic memory in these young kids has been wiped out. They don't know about clean water going into a washing machine. They think it's filthy or something like that. They don't know. There are certain things they do that they're not connected with it. Some of these kids don't even know the concept of a microwave, right? They have, and the worst part about this is some of these young kids, for the first time in my lifetime, they do not know who Christ is.
No, they don't.
How is that possible unless something else has been taking place under our noses? Yeah, it's a different topic, yes, but that really foretells of an origin. That's an origin story, or a very real one.
It's really sad. It's the truth what you're telling us. They don't understand how things work or how things are made or what it takes, the materials and where do the materials come from, the assembly, how does it work? They just think it's supposed to always be there. And then when you say they don't know who Christ is, they never heard of him in a lot of cases. And whatever they have heard about him has totally been distorted. So there's this a big time disconnect between generations. And the sad part about this is that's what's going to help. Unfortunately, that's ushering in the coming of Jesus Christ. Because even Jesus said this, Mike. He said, when I come, will I find any faith left? It's kind of a question. Certainly there will be, because, those that are redeemed will be caught up for him to be with him. The dead in Christ are going to rise and will be changed. But he asked that question because it's going to be scarce. It's going to get very, very difficult. And it doesn't take long, does it, Mike? It doesn't take long. 10, 20 years from now, it's a massive change in what type of faith people who believe in the Lord will be left on the earth. I mean, huge.
Yeah.
So
when you have, especially when you have children born who have no identification with Christ, no one had to tell me who Christ was.
Right.
And there are so many people out there, nobody had to tell them there was a God in this head. But some of these kids, not all, some of these kids absolutely do not know what that name is. They're not familiar with the name.
No.
Which lets me know something. If a child is not familiar with the name of Christ, that child's origins are different. That sounds strange, but there's some who are just not like everybody else, right? They're not meant to be that way, but they were always meant to come at the end times because they lift up ideologies like some of these new policies that have passed. They're 100% behind them. They're advocates for immorality. And it really is going topsy-turvy.
Wow.
It really is.
Well, Mike, this has been a very fascinating discussion, and boy, I didn't know if we was even going to be able to get it in. I'm so glad that we were able to get this broadcast restarted and get over 8,000 people to find it and still get it and get the gospel out to people. I think what you did today, though, you revealed something. The Wormwood revealed. It's now in play. It can see it coming. We know the anticipation of it is soon. And so that puts a lot of things in play. A lot of agendas are going on right now in preparation for this coming apocalypse, really. And people better find Christ and get him in their heart and listen to what the Lord says and read the Word and be prepared. Because
that's that true preparation. Amen. Prepared in Christ.
So, Mike, next Friday will be the webinar. We'll be talking with you, though, on the night before, and be really interesting to see what's going to happen. There's some things that are coming soon, and I know in the webinar you share that, so people better be ready.
A few days, we're going to find out, won't we?
We will, and I'm telling you, I'm a little nervous about this whole Russia situation and Europe and NATO and all of it. But there's so many things that are happening simultaneously that people better realize that the Bible prophecies are happening right before our very eyes, and it's coming quick now. All right, Mike. Well, thank you for being with us tonight. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on. It's been great information you've shared with us tonight.
Well, God bless you too, Pastor Paul. Guys, don't worry about the earthquake and the 2 flares that are coming. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it? All right.
It won't do too much.
I appreciate that. Now I'm worried about it. All right. Okay. All right, Mike. Thank you so much, my brother.
God bless you, Pastor Paul. Right. See you next time.
Okay. Mike from the world, folks. Don't worry about the earthquake.